The fourth and final night of the Republican National Convention kicks off in a few hours, but we wanted to fact check some of the claims made during night 3. Here's Jason Puckett.
Start with the claim from U.S. Representative Elise Stefanik from New York.
President Trump graciously thank and honor our men and women in uniform and sign the largest pay raise for our troops in a decade.
This claim is true. Department of Defense charts show that the military pay raise of 3.1% in 2020 was the highest since 2010. Between 2011 and 2019, the average raise was about 1.7%. Next, a claim from congressional candidate Madison.
My personal favorite, James Madison, was just 25 years old when he signed the Declaration of Independence.
This claim is false. James Madison was 25 years old when the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, but Madison didn't actually sign it. If you look at the Declaration itself or the list of signers kept by the National Archives, Madison's name isn't there. He did go on to sign the Constitution, though, 11 years later in 1787 when he was 36 years old. And finally, a claim from Vice President Mike Pence.
Before the first case of the coronavirus spread within the United States, the president took unprecedented action and suspended all travel from China.
This claim is false. CDC documents showed that the first U.S. COVID case was diagnosed on January 20th. President Trump signed that proclamation banning travel to China on January 31st, 11 days later. The president's travel ban proclamation actually starts by acknowledging the U.S. has, quote, confirmed cases. Folks, we have a lot more claims from all nights of the RNC up on our website. If you see a claim you want us to look into, send us an email. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.